Norma Stein.
Norma Stein. Okay. Got it.
Like Einstein.
Everybody, welcome to the Psychic Kitchen with Norma Stein from Adventures for Connection. And it's right there on the screen for everyone to look at. How you doing, Miss Norma?
Good. How about you, Thomas?
I'm chilling out. It's another day. The office.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm good. Welcome back, Norma. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
You know what Eneology? I think I got that right.
Yes, you did.
Was that good? I've spent a week practicing, so. But yeah, it was fascinating what you were talking about last week, the Eneology. Do you want to just give us a quick, brief synopsis of Eneology just to start with, and then we can go more in depth into the questions, because I've got a few questions that I weren't able to ask last week, so we can go through them. But yeah, if you just want to give us a quick synopsis again, just to remind us of what Eneology is.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no, it's a tool, just like anything else that's out here right now for anyone to utilize. And it's a tool that brings together the Enneagram, astrology, and numerology. This is an encompassing tool that helps you to understand the connections that we have with the cosmos, with the planets, understanding the star system, understanding how that is something that is reflective within this vessel in which we are, traversing this world and this life with and in. And it has the ability in a way to help you understand that this tool is like a guided map of self. If it's something you can utilize and understand how to use it to know more and more about the being that you are first and foremost. So it's, like I said, it's a tool just like anything else. People is either going to resonate with the individual at a level that presents itself to give that individuated person, being, the chance and opportunity to know more about who they are. Because this is about understanding that we're so much more than we've ever been told or thought or even taught up until now, given that, everything that's coming out that's, expressing this and telling us this, that, it's about us figuring out and coming to the space and place and that centerment where, as we go along this journey, it's about that individuated expression of understanding that we are all wanting to come to the all-encompassing understanding of our individuation, to know the unification that we all are a part of here. So it's just a tool that just gives the information with the three tools within this one big, huge tool on how to traverse the cosmos, the world that we are first.
Oh, sorry. I dropped my pen.
I did have some questions. Jimmy, did you have something?
No, you go, brother. I dropped my pen.
I want to know about your journey, because when I was thinking about the podcast I got from my guides, I just asked you about your journey. So how did this all start for you?
It was, the one great thing that that happened was I met Tanya online. And, given that this was a connection that was recognizable due to the energy that we both were emanating that brought us together. And, she's offered so much of a space and place for me to be able to express who I am throughout this time. And it's been a little over a year now. And, she was always sending material that she would come across and say, this is not for me. This must be for Norma. And so she sent me this one gentleman that I was watching. His name's Sivan Bomar IV. And he was he has his own YouTube channel on called Understanding. So she introduced me to him, and it just took off from there because I had the ability to recognize and understand the material he was providing through his understanding, because he's been on this track about as long as I have. And in his early mid to late 20s, or early to mid 20s, he had what you call a Kundalini rising. So he's been at this for 15, almost 20 years, just bringing forth his understanding and knowledge of all the exoteric and esoteric information that has been out there for years. And in that, he created genealogy through his knowledge and his understanding of what all this is, what it represents, how it's reflective of the beings that we are. So it was one of those that once I was able to garner that, the ability to understand what he was putting forward in a way that just triggered a lot of knowings and understandings within myself, genealogy was the next phase for that for me. And I utilized it in ways that just helped me to understand the world that I am, that we all are. Because when you look at the human vessel, it represents everything that we experience out here in this world. It's reflective. Everything that you see, from nature to the structures to how things work, it's all been created due to the understanding of the workings of this vessel in which we are having this experience in. So in that, it just, whenever I was going through it and I was understanding this information, and I was doing my own research into, gathering more of that more understanding of self, and utilizing that knowledge to traverse the cosmos of self, because I looked at it and I seen it as a guided map that helped you to understand how to shape, form, or fashion the keys to our DNA structure, to our connection to our ancestors that were here before, even through understanding the many lives that we've lived, that brings forth that wisdom from those moments and times up to here, because it all is connected. Nothing is separate from us. And that's how we begin to understand that the body is reflective of this world. And in that reflection.
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you feel like, because what I'm hearing is like with epigenetics, I don't know if you're familiar with that and these different things. So the DNA, do you feel like a lot of this information is stored within our DNA, like of our past lifetimes and other things of this nature?
Of course. How would we be able to come into something and understand the difference between a thought that's being produced and an information that's coming forth? It all resides here. It has to. There's no other way for it to exist, because it's all happening simultaneously. It's all happening at once, because you can't have one side of the spectrum without the other, because we are in a dual world of existence, and that's not even speaking to the outside of that.
I think that's what scares people, because when you talk about yin and yang and light and dark and all these other things, people have these perceptions of what that means. I don't really think understand what that means. Anyways, so I move the text message. So the thing is, what I'm getting at is like what I see with a lot of the spiritual community. And it's not disrespecting in any way, but it's really about, as you're saying, going within. It's like one of the key things.
It is.
And the more I look at it, the more I see fighting and infighting, and I'm sure you've seen that too. And Jimmy's seen that as well. But I'm like, isn't so if this was theoretically the end of the world or a new age, and things were starting to happen, I don't know if you've seen recently, I'm just going to take this in kind of controversial direction, but I don't know, Jimmy, if you've seen this, but there's all these TikTokers making videos about different countries and what's happening to them in the Met Gala and how it's like Hunger Games and all this stuff. So it's like viral through TikTok right now. But I'm getting at, though, is that if there is a golden age coming, and you supposedly have light workers, dark workers, all these other people, they're going to have to work together on some level to bring this into form, because they represent two sides of the two different coins, or two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. And I agree fully, because that's just it. You can't have one without the other. That's the beauty of all this.
No.
And that's what I've come to realize and recognize, that you can't know peace without chaos. They work in unison with one another. That's how all this has come to become. This is our experience. It's ours. We chose to be here. We chose to come in to have these experiences. First and foremost, we must recognize and realize that us, the beings that we are, chose to come here and manifest, to experience this place, to experience it as it is, to come here to really fully understand that when we get to that space and place of centerment within us, we'll understand fully and totally and completely what all this is.
Yeah.
But we must understand that it's in individuated express or work. It's not, we must understand ourselves on that individual level. Who are we first, before we can even understand what we're experiencing here second?
Yeah.
Once you find the information,
It'll come down to like a matter of perspective. I say this all the time, and it really irritates people sometimes. And like, that's your perspective. Your version of what good and evil is a matter of your perspective, and that's all it really comes down to. If we were in the Mayan times, it'd be a much different scenario. If I was back in Atlantis, the versions of what good and evil is would be a totally different thing. But I guess I think a lot of people, it's like, I'll hear this, and I'm sure Jimmy would too all the time back in the day of Facebook, and it would be like, well, we're walking into this golden age and everything's going to be love and light and it's all beautiful. And I'm like, there's got to be chaos to kick this thing off.
Let's get real.
Also, you think, well, by the way, Thomas, your reception isn't great. I don't know if you can move somewhere, but if you can't, no worries. But I wonder, do the ones who people say who are doing evil, do they know that they're doing evil? Or do they see the evil as being good? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, who's right and who's wrong, and is anyone right? That's the thing. Are the evil ones, so to speak, in inverted commas, do they think that they're doing good? And therefore, who says what is what? That's always, I ponder that. But you can only do what you feel like you need to do at the end of the day. I think you just have to go with what feels best for you, and sort of live life by your own compass, I suppose. But,
pretty much. Do you know your compass? Do you know your way to understand how to use that compass?
Yeah, true. And you're speaking about the body and the vessel, and I wondered, how important is that? Because I know there's like the trinity of the mind, body, and the soul, etc., and they probably all need to work in harmony together, etc. But though, I don't think that necessarily having the best diet, eating organically, fruits and vegetables, all of that kind of stuff, no meat, blah 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 blah. I don't necessarily feel that there's one diet for everyone. But there are people who have an awful diet, yet they're some of the most psychic people and spiritually gifted people out there. So I don't necessarily think that having an ultra clean diet, organic, etc., like I said, equals spiritual enlightenment, if that's what you want to call it, or ascension. Because I feel like it maybe like the most important thing is the mind. If the food that you're ingesting interacts and throws your mind and off balance, then obviously that has an effect. But how do you see kind of the role in diet and the looking after of the body, the care of the body, physical vessel? Because obviously we describe this physical vessel like when we pass, allegedly. So why do we need to take care of it?
Well, I mean, When it comes down to it, it comes down to an individuated choice, period.
Yeah.
That we each have the free will to choose any and all experiences, expressions, whatever that may be, on an individual basis. So when we look at this, and this is the one thing that I keep coming into, that because I keep coming to understand me, this is about understanding, who am I? What is this really about? And in those questions, what I keep coming to is there's so much more to this than you're being told, than has ever been expressed. It goes deeper than anything that we're witnessing or experiencing out here, but you must find it within self to understand the depthness of self first in order to understand the overall arching picture of what's taking place. So when we look at this, there are times that I go and I utilize information and I use it to see what may be triggered. And during this process, what I'm doing is I'm looking at what is being given, what is being provided, what is someone's opinion or understanding about what's taking place, what may work, what may not work. During this time, I'm using an enormous amount of discernment for self, because you see, there are a lot of things I don't do. I don't meditate. I sit and I sit in quiet contemplation. I don't run my chakra systems because it's like, I don't even know if there's even, what the truth of chakra systems are. Is there anything that's beyond that? Is there something that, it could be an adage or something? I use discernment in understanding that I choose each day who I am, because each day is a new day. To understand that, I'm here in this, having an experience, and all I want is the truth of it. Show me the truth. And I know that the more information I take in, the more overwhelmed my mind becomes, because if I'm not using that discernment, then I'm just feeding myself BS, so to speak. It's just more stuff that I have to work through. It's overwhelming. So we've always known that we've had information coming at us ever since we can remember. So the one thing that I utilize is I see something, if it's something I'm being led to watch, just to gain knowledge or information about someone else that has either utilized this system or used this method or used this guidance to know more about self, then it's something that I watch, I listen, I see what comes from it. Because the one thing that I will speak to here is I can't tell you how to get there. I just know how I've gotten there. And all I'm doing is giving and providing the information of that tool and that guide that got me to where I am right here, right now. Because it's on an individuated basis in that free will choice of each individual that chooses what they want to know about the truth of what all this is.
I always tell people, don't listen to me and don't listen to anyone else either. And don't even listen to me telling you not to listen to anyone else. So it's kind of like, just, listen to who you feel drawn to, or not. It's kind of, I could go on perpetually, but but we know, I think we know when we hear something or see someone or whatever, when we think, oh yeah, they might be worth a moment of my time, sort of thing, whatever time is. Right. Yeah, I find it funny.
Well, a lot of it is, like, I've come to understand is I'm the one that must seek truth. And I know the only way to do that is go as deep as I can, any given moment, of anything that may resonate, and seek within myself the truth of that source or that answer or that guide or that tool.
What is truth? That's the thing. Truth is kind of just a term, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is. It's like Thomas was speaking to. You can't sit here and look at things as good and bad, because you're saying that about yourself. It's self-judgment, because you're here in this experience with it. You're here for a reason. What is the purpose of why you're here having this experience? And for me, it was to understand that I've come far enough and I've had enough experiences here to know where I am right here, right now. And that's the recognition of knowing that I want and I am being the solution to the issues that I see that can be changed. Doesn't mean there's never not going to be chaos, but that doesn't mean there's not ever going to be a chance and opportunity to have peace. But that all it comes down to the individuation of the choice that one person, one human, one homo luminescent individual makes for themselves. Everything is about perspective. Everything is about of what they feel or think. But the thing about it is do you ask the question? Is this what I feel, and is this my truth, or is this something that I've been led to believe? Or is this something that has been incorporated into my way of thinking because of conditioning, because of, the nefarious things that are going on out here in this world? Just because it's being brought out doesn't mean it's still not happening.
Because do you think that could it be argued that whenever you talk about, or whenever anyone talks about anyone else, they're actually always talking about themselves?
Of course. Everything's a mirror. Everything. Your experiences are mirroring something about you. Can you stand there while you're having that experience and not judge it? That's where separation stops. When you come to understand that anything you judge outside of you is reflective of things within you. So you're judging something about the individuated person that you are, that's a part of the collective of this experience. See, it goes beyond all this. It's so much deeper, so much more. And it's one of those that even I've come to the space and place where I ask myself the questions: can I have an enormous amount of love from a unified field to love any and all individuals that are here having these experiences? And no matter what those choices are, whether you define it as good or evil, love enough to understand that we're all here having an experience in an individuated way, given the choices that we chose when we came into this experience to be this, that, or the other, to whatever it may, express. You see, we as beings have been taught to think separately. I challenge people to come to a place of unification and see this place and understand this place fully and significantly for what it actually represents. Us, individuated, wanting to master a way to get back to unification and understand it all at a level that it's just expression. It's energy expressing itself on any given level. So no matter what, go ahead.
So I was thinking, like seeing everyone as ourselves and talking about anyone is talking to ourselves. So if we're talking, like I'm talking to you and you're talking to me, we're actually talking to ourselves. And, they say, I don't know whether it's sort of purposely put out there, but if you talk to yourself, you're mad or whatever. So we're either all mad or, and so the only thing to do is just not say anything forever. But then communicate, and I suppose then does that mean that if we communicate telepathically, is that talking to ourselves as well? So I don't know. Maybe I'm going too deep with this, but
no such thing.
It's true, but you could go on and on with that, can't you? It's kind of like, where does it end, and how do you quantify it or qualify it? And is there an answer? I suppose that's at the end of the day, it's the question, and the question is why. How do we know that we're just having an experience? Is that just what we feel? That's just what we, because some people don't believe that. Some people don't have blood. I can't remember what the name of them are. There's a religion that they believe they only have one life and that's it, and then they're done. They're out. I was curious about it a few years ago. They stopped me in the street and I had a conversation with them, and they were having a party or something like that. I went along just because I was curious about it, and I thought, yeah, that's not for me. But I went to experience what it would be like to see if it was something that I resonated with. It wasn't, but it's just find it fascinating. So.
And Jimmy, you're living to for expression, and in those expressions you make choices. And in those choices, what happens is are we in a space and place within ourselves to understand that when we have a thought, it's a choice, or it's an expression to experience something within self that we've not experienced outside. Because I come to understand that anything that I see outside of me is reflecting something back to me about me. So when we look at having experiences, us as a species must understand that it goes so much deeper than we could ever understand unless we continue on wanting to understand the truth of what all this is. And it's a process. We have to go through that ebb and flow. But without that ebb and flow, we would not gain the answers in which we seek to know the truth of. So the great thing about this is, the one thing I can say that I've come to understand is it doesn't end. It doesn't end. Even once we're away from here and we're not a part of this vessel, we continue on. There can be no other way. How would all this exist if it ever ended? Do you see the vastness in how huge just this galaxy that we're in, much less the cosmos? And then to understand that every cell and molecule and everything that exists that creates this vessel is that. And that's how I perceive. I can't sit here and say that I'm experiencing this place called Earth, this place called world, cosmos, and not be able to see that it's me. I can't no longer see a separation in myself any longer. I can understand how this has all come to be, how it's all is playing out the way that it's been playing out. And believe me, it's taken me a long time to get to this space and place within myself to recognize that I am not separate from anything that goes on, that happens, that's created, that is. I can take full responsibility in looking at myself and saying, I've had a hard look at who I was, who I am, and who I'm becoming. And I remain studiously honest with myself on any aspect of who I am. Whether somebody wants to define it as good or somebody wants to define it as bad, I don't define anymore. I look at what was the choice I made, what was the result of that choice. And from there, I can move forward, because then I'm just dealing with me. Everyone else is just being who they're being. It has nothing to do with me. I stay in my lane, which means I remain within myself to see more about what can I do to expand more and bring forth more this greater part of me that I am sitting here experiencing and expressing. So it's about integrity. It's about honesty. It's about transparency. I don't have all the answers. Far from it. But I continue to do what I need to put forth that effort to gain whatever it is, knowledge, information, someone else's story. It doesn't matter. If it's something that brings me a chance and opportunity to know more about who I am and it brings that forth, beautiful. Because that's what I'm here doing. That's what I'm here expressing.
So I think it could be argued that if, like, everyone wants, well, not everyone, but most people want peace on earth, peace, to no wars, etc. So, and you could argue that if you find that peace within yourself, then the outside will automatically be a reflection of that. So therefore, there will be peace on earth. So it's about finding peace within yourself first. And then the outside will change to reflect the inside. So we don't necessarily need to do anything apart from find peace within us.
What is peace?
True.
Yeah, I wonder what the definition of peace is. That therein lies a question.
And then once you get to that, are you going to the root of it? Are you understanding the origin of what it truly meant before it got distorted with all the language and things? See, it goes so deep.
I've heard Lord been described as different things, and not God or whatever. Lord has many different meanings, and some of them are could be considered nefarious, by today's standards. But so yeah, exactly. Maybe it comes down to intention. But that religion that I couldn't remember earlier, it was, I don't know if you've heard of them, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Of course.
The Mormon.
Yeah, I think that's what came to mind. I think that's what it is. But I don't know. I can't remember. That's. I just looked it up, and that's what I came up with. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it all comes down to understanding.
Hmm.
We get to make choices. Those choices lead us in any and all directions, because what a lot of us didn't recognize and understand we were doing in the first place was, who are we? Who am I? Who am I in all this? Why am I here? What is this about? These are the most important questions and aspects you'll always come across whenever you come across those I can't even think of what they're called right now because it keeps leaving my mind. But where they gather people together and they say, what is it that drives you most about living this life? And it's, who am I? What am I here for? What's my purpose? And what is this all about?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, I think why is a very important question. We don't ask why enough. Although obviously, right. It can lead to a whole host of different answers. But then if you never questioned anything, you never find out, I suppose. So.
Right. And now we can end the podcast because you just made the greatest statement of truth. You can't know something until you do. And you can't know it unless you ask.
Yeah.
So we're always asking. But are we aware enough to understand how we're asking for that experience? Okay. And that's one thing we're coming to understand is when you master understanding how you're asking for that experience, that's where you're able to utilize their past to say, well, I asked it this way because I remember how I ended up having an experience. It was because I wasn't aware of how I was asking for it. Then you become that greater aspect of self from here, and you say, well, I don't want to ask it that way. So is there a better or more defined or greater aspect of myself that I can ask for this, this experience and see what the result may be? But understand, the universe works in mysterious ways.
And like Thomas, you always say, sorry,
no, you're good.
Thomas, you always say, if you want something, just ask for it, or ask the universe or whatever to show you or to give it to you or whatever. They,
Right. So it's a hit and miss, but that's the beauty of what's taking place. Can we get to a place in space of understanding ourselves enough to become aware of ourselves as to how we're asking to receive these experiences? But those experiences is leading us to one place and one place only. Unification. To understand that unified field. To understand that everything is mentation. It is a mental expression or experience. But here's the thing. Mentation is what is and what brings forth knowledge that taps into the wisdom of our experience of what ultimately love represents. And that's how I perceive this. To know that love can walk with knowledge is a beautiful thing. Because like I expressed the last time, there's the tree of life and there's a tree of knowledge of the good and evil. We're living in two realms simultaneously that are running right beside each other in that expression with one another. And we're doing the best we can to navigate what we're being given. So in that navigation, you got to understand what's reality, what is awake and what is asleep. I may be sitting here talking to you right now, but that doesn't mean that I'm awake. Not in this realm, not in this reality. But I can say the same thing about when I'm in my dream state as well. So which one is the truth? Which one is the reality that which we exist? They're both true and they're both false.
And you could argue that awake is what you have after a funeral. So if you say if someone says they're awake or whatever, they say, well, that's something that is done for the dead.
Right. And what are we trying to ascend here? what are we actually really trying to ascend? Are we ascending, or are we actually just working this system in which we're in to utilize our understanding that we just want to know, what is this about? Why did I choose to come here to have this experience?
Aye, exactly. We've kind of got a little bit off topic from any genealogy.
Oh yeah,
but that's fine. You know, but it needed to go down that road. It was fascinating.
right.
But I was just curious because I kind of wondering about genealogy and astrology, and you said about how they were all of zodiac signs and stuff like that connected to body parts and everything. Does it mention anything about? Because I know certain cell salts. Does any genealogy mention anything about the tissue salts, the cell salts, the body? Do you know about those?
Well, what it is that when you understand how the planet or the astrological sign that exists correlates with that body part, what it does is it takes and it helps you to understand the energy of that body part. Then, for you to understand that body part, you must move to the next phase of the cycle, and that's the vessel. So you're utilizing esoteric and exoteric knowledge to bring the two together to have the understanding in the one infinite place of unification of how it all works together. That's what I get from that, because I was a CNA for 22 years. So I already have a significant amount of knowledge about the human body. Do I know all the intricacies? No. There's a lot to know about the intricacies of how this body works in unison with itself. Okay? And that is where you can understand how energy works. The body reflects that energy that works together here in this realm, as well as the other realm, in unison. They can't exist without each other. It can't be, because it's like, even whenever you hear the understanding, even in the Matrix movie, the mind cannot live without, the energy of what's taking place. It's like even going to the story of Sophia and Yaldabaoth, the book of John. Yaldabaoth, in his minions, when you understand the story, created the human body in his story, in his way. But the body lay dormant, and Yaldabaoth did not know why. So Yaldabaoth was told by the Great One, because of the things that took place, to blow in the human's face, to give it breath, to blow its breath into the human, and it would animate, and it would come alive. So it's understanding that it's you. What's that?
Is this the Apocalypse of John?
Yes, the Apocrypha.
Yeah. Apocrypha.
Yeah. So when you come to understand just that story alone, it helps you to come to a realization and recognition that it's two forces existing at the same time and existing simultaneously in this space and place in which we call life, living, journey, exploration. You can't have one without the other. Where did we come from before we got here? I haven't always been this.
Yeah, I know exactly. Ada says she does that with her herbs when she's making stuff.
Alchemy.
Yeah, she's a herbal wizard though, or witch or whatever the sorceress or whatever. But when it comes to herbs and stuff, so she's amazing.
Yeah, alchemy is one of the most beautiful tools. When you understand alchemy on so many, in all its expression, the body alchemizes, the world alchemizes, our thoughts alchemize. Everything is alchemizable because it's all working in unison. To understand that is to understand the elements. To understand the elements and how they work and they express themselves, you must understand nature. So it's something that's always moving, it's always producing, it's always showing, it's always expressing. So it goes very deep. That's the reason why I say there's no such thing as too deep. It's how deep can you go within yourself?
All right. Kimberly mentions, Kimberly says, like the key codes for the biofields in the whole container. Like biofields, I'm guessing each organ or each part, or you suppose you could argue that each cell has its own biofield, I suppose, but you could sort of put it under the microscope and keep going and going and going, I suppose. But how they interact, how they interact with each other, I guess, and they all talk to each other. That gives the harmonization of the body in some respects, I suppose. Yeah,
it's infinite because it's fractalization. It's fractalizing. When we look at just the smallest expression of life.
It's like the Mandelbrot set, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you,
yeah, I mean, can we get to a space and place within ourselves that we can be shown all the way down to that unique, just smallest speck that it even goes down to that fractalization of the micro from the macro, and then from the micro to the macro to understand what we're experiencing here. Can we get past the brain to utilize the mind to connect in that unified field for it to show us what all this really is and who we are in all this? You see, and I've been blessed with a level of that to be able to actually see, Mother Earth fractalized all the way down to the core of what is the light that, produces the rest of it that exists. I mean, it can get so much into a complexity that it can overwhelm people. But the way that I express and experience, and I have throughout most of my life, is I always had that ability to sit and just be, to reflect and allow things just to, present themselves to me. The only thing and the only difference between now and between then and now is that I don't question it. I just allow it. Because even in that expression, there's something to be seen. There's something to be told. Because I don't know. Yet the one thing I can count on is the ability to sit and just allow things just to come to me and sort through the things that, may not make sense and say, okay, I don't understand what you're showing me in this, but I feel that it will be revealed to me in time what it ultimately means. My expression now comes from within out because I go within to understand, because I know that somewhere along the line, the only place I've ever been able to receive my information beyond anything that I've utilized from this world is that I utilize the knowledge of this world to understand how this world became in the manifest, yet recognize that even I must take that information and sit with it to see what it has to show me from within. Because it reflects. It's reflective. That's the reason why it's called reflection.
Yeah, the clue's in the name, isn't it?
Everything's reflection. It's a reflection. No matter how you look at it, glass, mirror, whatever is something that shines back at you, whatever is something that is put before you, be for you. Be for you. And we're talking about everything is for you. Be for you. I can't get any deeper than that in that expression of what that ultimately means.
Yeah, it's right there in our face.
Right.
All right.
And that's where just even the profoundness of understanding Carl Jung, even in one of his just, statements that he makes. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Oh yeah, I like Cryon. I've seen some of his. You talking about but
Carl Jung.
oh, Carl Jung. Oh, sorry, I thought you said Cryon. But
I've watched Cryon as well.
yeah, but Carl Jung. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I thought of Cryon just then, but there's two Cryons apparently. Lee Carroll one and someone else said that they channeled Cryon, and the other one was selling that the Lee Carroll one isn't the real one, and it was all of that kind of
Of
stuff.
course, it's all over the place.
Yeah, but which I find fascinating. I was like, how do you know? You just go with whichever one resonates, sort of thing.
Yep.
But
You don't know what you don't know until you do, and until you come to that space and place where it provides you with that chance and opportunity to know what is, you don't know. And that's the funny, and sometimes that's probably the most funniest thing that I find about this life is that most people have an opinion, but that opinion is probably when we're able to sit and actually be honest with ourselves. Like, I'm very honest with myself. I can sit here and I can have an opinion about something, but unless I am there and I've had the experience, it's in my space and place, I don't know anything. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying it isn't happening. All I'm saying is I myself have no leg to stand on to give an opinion about something.
Yeah,
I wasn't there to experience it. So who am I?
Yeah, we take a lot of information as being true and real, etc., without actually having the experience. We just go and buy what someone else has experienced, and we know that people are not always truthful. Obviously, I'm sure everyone, including myself, we've told lies in the past, but I'm on a mission to sort of rectify that, and I do my best to be as honest as I can, be as responsible as I can. And take responsibility for everything, even if there was something the other day that happened, and basically there was a situation where someone accused me of something, and I thought, how dare they accuse me of that? That wasn't my fault. But then it turns out a few days later that there was something that I did that actually meant, yes, I can see how it was sort of my fault. And if if everything's a reflection, then it's always our fault, regardless of what it is anyway. But there was something in the back of my mind that says, don't retaliate, just wait and see, just accept the responsibility for now. And you, within however long, you'll see what you did that meant that person was right saying that it was my fault. And so instead of going back with them and sort of letting my emotions get the better of me and say, how dare you, why don't you look at yourself, etc., etc. This wasn't my fault. I waited and waited and waited, and eventually, after a few days, I realized that, actually, yeah, that was kind of my fault because I misunderstood a situation. Basically, someone accused me of embarrassing them, and I, in a nutshell, I sent a wrong link to someone, but I didn't realize that was the link that they wanted. And so at the end of the day, if I'd have asked the question, what link do you want? Then I would have sent them the right link, and there would have been no issue. So it was my fault for not asking the question but I waited instead of retaliating, like I said. And so it's a question, like we were saying before we came on, it's a question of waiting to see what happens, even if something doesn't go in your favor, because there's always a reason for things to happen. And it's just that we don't know what it is at the time. We'll only find out after. But it's how we react to a situation that determines how much we're going to suffer, basically. Whether we want to make ourselves suffer over something or not. And we can calm as I know it's not always easy to keep calm, especially with everything that's going on. But if we can do our best, that's all we can do. So, and we learn.
Right, of course, and that's where that's where I see the beauty in all this is just you expressing your experience, and in that experience understanding, okay, I choose to not respond in ways I know that have not always, been what's best for me. Let me wait this out. Let's see what it is that I need to see about this, because it's telling me something about myself. But what we must understand is, when we're doing this, to be out of that judgment is to understand that no one's at fault. It's just an experience. And this is an expression of the experience that's coming about. It's something that is giving us a chance and opportunity to see something about ourselves. And I'm great. And for me, whenever I have those experiences, I'm grateful for them, because regardless of what brought about that experience, what is the experience telling me about myself, so I can see the difference between what's my truth and that other aspect of who I am and becoming, or is this something that I'm responding to from that conditioned way of being, where I was led to believe I was less than I am? Because you see, that's the one thing we as a species must understand. We were born into a space and place where we're suppressing who we are was the ultimate goal. Suppressing our ability to understand that we are so much more than any entity or any spirit or any energy that is of nefariousness. We're so much more stronger and so much more intellectual, so much more greater in that aspect of connection between the two realms. For me, I have no God. I know there's a unified field because I've felt it. I've experienced it in myself. And that's where my peace resides. Doesn't mean I always remain there, but I know what peace feels like because I found it. I found it through my understanding that if I'm always asking the questions, and I'm asking them from a place of love, I'm asking them from a place of that integral honesty, that I'm willing to sit and look at myself and say, well, I did that. And I definitely did it from a space and place where it might not have been the greatest aspect of who I am.
No.
But I can't change that if I don't have that experience.
Yeah. Yes, it's amazing how sort of freeing and liberating, sort of forgiving yourself for things that you've done in the past can be.
Right.
You sort of, I don't know, you beat yourself up or beat ourselves up about a few things, and we're embarrassed and shameful about certain acts that we may have done in the past. But at the end of the day, once we think, well, I can see why I did that, and I didn't know any better or whatever, and then you forgive, and then you can talk about them. And then when I think when you start talking about them and have them out in the open, that's when they lose the power of you. So, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and it's coming to understand what's accountability, what's responsibility, and where does it begin? The one thing I come to understand is it begins with me. I got to hold myself accountable, and I must remain in responsibility of self, which means I must be integral, honest, and transparent with myself first before I can even begin to understand if someone else is. Because you see, if I can figure out the things that I utilize to fool myself because of what I was given to utilize as a foundation, which it really was not a foundation to begin with. When I really look back on my life to understand that my conditioning gave me a foundation that was never meant to hold me up. My foundation began when I began to take responsibility and accountability for who I am and who I'm becoming by setting that foundation for self. And that meant going on on a journey of enormous amount of self-reflection, holding myself accountable, staying aware of the choices I was making, regardless of anyone else. However, coming to that understanding that I had an enormous amount of respect and love, that it brought me to that space and place of the ultimate understanding of others and why they make the choices they even made. To understand that they can only make the choices from the same place I could with what I was given. And from that, understand that, I can forgive myself because what I was given was shit.
Right. Yeah. Just wonder. I don't know why I want to ask this, but do you? Because you seem like, I mean, you're very calm, very knowledgeable, a lot of wisdom, etc. Learned a lot. Are there still things that push your buttons and someone does something that will trigger you and everything like that? And do people purposely play on those things, or do you not let those sort of things bother you anymore? Do you know what I mean? Like just like the silly little things that someone may do at home or whatever, just to wind you up. I don't know, like leaving things around the place, or that, like, for example, there you hear of husband and wives or partners or whatever, if someone leaves their socks out or on the stairs, or so, instead of putting them in the linen basket, or leaves the toilet seat up, or stuff like that. Do you still have stuff that sort of gets on your nerves, or have you managed to sort of think, well, no, I know what they're doing, so I'm not going to give them the satisfaction, of waiting for that.
What, Jimmy, that depends on where I'm at. It depends on if I'm out here or if I'm in here. And when we begin to understand that, we're doing the best we can. Every single one of us is doing the best we can, given who we are, where we are, and our awareness level of self. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, no. I do have times where I recognize that I'm triggered about things, but the way that I respond is, if I'm getting triggered, then I stop. Now, why is this triggering me? And for the most part, I'm going to laugh because I'm just going to recognize that that's still a little bit of that conditioned way of being, because I was that for so long, especially in my younger years. See, that's the reason why they do everything while you're young, because it's very, very much more of a challenge to change that or to release that, so that way you may get back to the original blueprint of the being that we are. That's the reason why all this took place. Is here's the beauty of this. If someone, in my opinion, because I found this to be about myself, if there are people here or anywhere that's listening to someone that says that they've changed due to taking responsibility for self, and in that I'm becoming so much more due to this, because I'm holding myself accountable, nobody else has to, then that's true. That's the truth of being heroic, being a hero. You're very heroic in this, because that's what it's like to tap into, superpowers. Okay. That's the greatest heroic thing anyone can provide themselves. First is the chance and opportunity to realize that you can take full-on responsibility for self and accountability, and I guarantee you that's going to bring you the greatest peace than anything else.
That's true.
Because you quit holding everyone else responsible and put them in the prison of your mind.
Yeah, taking full responsibility is sort of the scariest thing to do, but also the most rewarding. Totally. Yeah. Right.
You become a hero to everyone. It's almost like you become that hero, because what you become is you become something that someone else can see they can be themselves. How? Because the greatest thing I ever did was face myself. It was the scariest thing I did too.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for it, because I'm so much more relaxed. I'm so much more at peace with what is, whether I have the fullness of the knowledge of the understanding of why it is beside the point. I'm coming to that because I had to find that peace to understand how to continue to know what that peace is, because that peace tells me and shows me the chaos that still is continuing on. And in that, it provides me with the chance and opportunity to be a being that promotes solutions. And the only way you can be in a solution-oriented space or place is to realize and recognize that you're a problem.
Right. Yeah, it's eye-opening, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's kind of like the more you do it, the more you'll recognize. It's a bit like I found out something today. You know, when you get this number sequences, and the question is, you know, what's the next number in the list or whatever, or what's the missing number?
Yep.
And you go through, right, is that one added to that equals that? And you go through all of these different situations, or that's one's that times that, and that's, you know, +1, +2, +3, Fibonacci, or whatever. But there was some number sequences I thought I've got no idea about this one, but I had a look about how to work them. I put it I went onto a website and asked them to show me, and then I realized that it's like a layer or two layers, and you learn something new, and then you can see it with new eyes, and you know how to sort of decode it. It's almost like you have to decode things. It's a bit like a dream in a sense, where I had a dream last night where I think I was, from what I can remember, I was in a sort of warehouse, but it was a stuffy warehouse. There was stuff all over the place. It wasn't very clean. It was really dirty. And then all of a sudden, I was in this nice, massive, big warehouse. It was clean. It was nicely taken care of. And I thought, I feel like that's the representation of like my old sort of diet, the way that I lived, etc. And now this is me the representation of how I'm sort of I've cleaned up my diet, etc. and everything like that. And that's not to say that, you know, it's what everyone needs to do it if they want, because we were talking earlier and I was saying about some of the most psychic people I know doesn't have a very good diet at all, and it doesn't the way that but it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of, I suppose, whatever they feel like they want to do. If they want to eat what they eat, then it's up to them. But I just feel better doing that myself. But it's like decoding a dream some of the time, and I feel like the Bible is a bit like that as well. I mean, I haven't really read the Bible, but from what I've seen of the Bible, it's all about decoding, and, you know, there's not literal representations. Some of it may be, but, you know, who knows? I didn't write it, so, well, I don't think I did anyway, but who knows? But unless you actually wrote it, then how can you say? So,
You know, given what you're speaking to here, Jimmy, I look at it from this position and place that I've come within myself. And in everything that I look at, I must understand that given the world that exists, the world that was, the world that is, the world that is becoming, is in anything that I study, I use an enormous amount of discernment, for I must look for what may be a hierarchical system. Okay. So in that, while I'm taking in this information and using my discernment to recognize truth and what may not be truth, I've come to understand that when I make choices, I make them for myself first. And in that, I've come to know myself well enough to know that, let's say, if I eat chocolate at 9 o'clock at night, I'm paying for it in the morning with puffy eyes. I know this. I know this. I know myself this well. But it doesn't mean I'm still not going to make the choice to eat chocolate at 9 o'clock at night, depending on what it is in my body or my feelings, or possibly even emotions that may still exist within this body of, you know, of energy that's saying, okay, I need some comfort. And because we can't get it this way, or this way, I want chocolate. Okay. Because at this point, it's about understanding that we're going to make choices. And in that, there will be consequences that come with those choices. Now, how those consequences show themselves is going to be up to you as to how you define it through your perspective. Are you being objective enough about your experience with self
Yeah, yeah.
much less anyone or anything else. So how objective are you being with yourself? Do you know yourself well enough to know you're making the only thing that I've come to understand that I am ever mastering is self.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, because everything, I suppose, is a representation of us, isn't it? I suppose.
Right. And I'm the only one that's got to deal with me. I'm the one that's got to go to sleep with this.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's got to deal with everything that comes with all the choices I make. Nobody else is in here. Everybody else is in their own.
I know.
So when we get down to the nitty gritty of this, is that this is where you get to understand that these are the things that you recognize about self, because this is what keeps moving you forward to that unified code, to that unified field, to that unification of understanding that we're all here doing the exact same thing, just in different ways, just in different.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, yeah, I like that.
So you see, I live without definements. As much as I can, I live without no more. I have very, 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 very small belief systems. Because what I've done is I've done away with all that, because I understand when I define something, that doesn't mean that I'm being given the truth of it. Okay, because the one thing I've come to understand as well, as I keep living and experiencing and exploring this life, I've come to find out that things that I've defined were not always what they were defined to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Which in turn was reflective of those belief systems. You see,
that's always our knowledge, and everything is always evolving. We never actually know anything in a sense. Really, we just think that we know. If we hold on to a belief or a thought, then we're sort of blocking any future thing to come through.
right?
In a sense. So, yeah. Well, I think that's probably a good note to finish on, I think. Have you got anything? Do you want to just shout out the website and stuff and the genealogy? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you want to reach out and get a little more information, or for me to, give you, your psychic or your destiny number, at least give you something to have a foundation to start from. Just reach out to me on Adventures for Connection through Norma Stein, and you can scroll down. It goes over a little bit about who I am, how I've used genealogy to understand who I am, on this higher aspect of self. And you can book a session with me if you so choose. Like I said, I didn't create it. I just utilized it. I know it as a tool, and I can help assist you in understanding how to use it as a guide of the cosmos of self. It's up to you. I'm just here telling you what I utilize to get to be to the being expressed that you see sitting before you now, to become more and more that expression of something that is so much more than this micro expression you see sitting here before you. So it's a beautiful tool. It really is. And the one thing about genealogy is it doesn't tell you who you are. It tells you how to know and how to become who you are. You see, I'm not here to tell you who you are. I can see characteristics, and I can understand personalities through the genealogy and how it's presented, because I've become very innate at being able to understand other humans as myself. But what it does is it helps you to utilize it as the tool that it represents, and that's a guided map of self, the cosmic and world self. You are first to understand that there's so much exploration of self. It's a beautiful process. So
lovely. Right, thank you ever so much, Norma. Yeah, we'll be back again next week, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.